Well, you know, there's a lot of things going on right now around the world, including a lot of visitors that have found themselves in trouble when they travel abroad. Well, we're going to bring in a story right now that you're hearing a little bit about regarding a traveler father with his two daughters and his son that went on a trip with his wife and had an unexpected visitor in their hotel room, and a hotel employee who came in. The father then actually had to turn around and had to defend himself. Now he's actually having to stand trial within that country and worried that maybe he might not get a fair trial. I want to bring in Mollye Barrows with RT America to kind of give us all the details. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Scotty.
Okay, so I kind of did a brief overview of it, but I know there's a lot more to this story, and a lot of people travel abroad on vacation. They wonder, what are my rights if something does happen? Let's talk about what is the overall case and what are we dealing with? What's the story?
So this guy, Connecticut banker Scott Hapgood, took a vacation with his family to the island of Anguilla, and he told the press that when this incident happened, he was just protecting himself from 27-year-old Kenny Mitchell. This happened last April, and the hotel worker died in this confrontation. So he's 44, father of 3, as you mentioned, vacationing with his wife and his children, and they were staying at the Malahuana Hotel. When he says Mitchell, dressed in his hotel uniform, showed up unannounced at his hotel room, said there was a broken sink that needed to be fixed. Hapgood says when Mitchell walked into the room, he had a knife, started demanding money from him, started demanding money from his daughters. There was a struggle, and there was a bloody fight that ensued with both men suffering injuries. Now, Hapgood says Mitchell bit him multiple times on his face and his chest before he managed to restrain him on the floor while his daughters ran to the front desk to get help. Mitchell was still alive when Hapgood left for the hospital himself, but later died. And an autopsy, Scotty, found that Mitchell was beaten and asphyxiated to death in a prone position, but that he also had cocaine, marijuana, other drugs in his system, and his blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit in the U.S. Hapgood was arrested 4 days after the attack and initially denied bail, wasn't even going to be able to go back to America where he lived, but he was later released on a $74,000 bond on appeal. And the incident has sparked outrage across the island. So this man is now in fear of even going back there, but that is indeed where he is. He had to go back this week for hearings related to this case.
Well, and that's the thing. I can understand, obviously, tourism is big there, but why is this case so controversial with the people and Anguilla?
Well, I think it's probably a lot deeper than just this particular case. It seems as if this particular incident has sparked a proverbial nerve, if you will, with locals on the island. So while Mitchell's family says he had no history of violent behavior, that he was a father of one son, he was considerate and loving to that child, and he was also a considerate, loving son to his mother and his siblings. His friends, locals, others have praised this hotel worker's character, and they say it just doesn't make any sense that a man like Mitchell, who is physically a lot smaller than Hapgood, who was a former athlete or played it in college or high school, football and lacrosse. Basically, they say it doesn't make sense. They don't necessarily buy the story that he showed up, and that they think, his mother thinks anyway, Mitchell's mom thinks that something else may have happened. But as far as the locals being outraged, they see it as special treatment for a wealthy tourist. And apparently there's a long history, in their opinion, of wealthy tourists getting away with crimes against locals that they say should not have happened. In this case, Hapgood say Scott was only acting in self-defense. They restrained Mitchell on the floor to protect himself and his family. Some witnesses are saying that it was when he restrained Mitchell on the floor that's what caused the asphyxiation, along with the other injuries that ultimately led to his death. But Hapgood says, hey, I was just trying to protect myself. I had no idea something like this was coming. And his attorney held a press conference in the United States on Tuesday before they headed to the island for hearings. He says, or his female attorney says, that they have been inundated with insults and threats, including a voicemail on Scott Hapgood's cell phone from someone claiming to know exactly where he lived. And his lawyer, Julia Arbisman, told reporters that her client faces a credible threat of violence for even going to the island, and that local police have told her team that the less time he spends there, the better. So she's not exactly happy that he's being forced to go down there for what are essentially preliminary hearings leading up to the trial, which will be later this year.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, will his case actually be tried on the islands? Well, does he fear that he's going to be able to get a fair trial himself?
It is going to be tried on the island, and that is a definite fear. Arbusman says that she's not only concerned for his safety when he gets there, they're going to have to assign a security team to him, but again, not exactly confident that he's going to get a fair trial, in part because she said local prosecutors withheld that toxicology report for a couple of months that showed Mitchell was high on cocaine and other drugs, as well as had alcohol in his system at the time he attacked, or I should say at the time that incident occurred with Scott Hapgood in his hotel room. And they worry about Hapgood's ability to get a fair trial on that island when information like that is basically withheld and the case is so highly charged on the island. And again, Mitchell's mom believes her son was not into drugs, that something else happened in that room that afternoon in April. But Hapgood, whose daughters were 11 and 13, or Hapgood, his kids were 11 and 13 at the time, and he says the event has been traumatizing for everyone in his entire family, but that he would do it again, Scottie, if he had to protect them.
Well, I want to follow this story, but Mollye, real quick, just because you are an attorney, I do want to ask you, a lot of people do wonder when they travel abroad as American citizens, does that mean that the American laws go with them? And in this case, does it?
It absolutely does not. I mean, there may be a case where if he were on say, Puerto Rico or some other American territory or where we had some sort of jurisdiction, but right now he essentially is going to have to hire his own legal team that'll have to work with attorneys there and work within the laws of Anguilla in order to defend himself from these accusations, which he says once evidence is presented that it will show that he was in fact acting in self-defense. But again, his American legal team is saying, well, we certainly hope that's the case. We think we have the evidence to prove it, but prosecutors locally seem to be reluctant to share a lot of the evidence they're collecting if it appears to be negative against Mitchell, who passed away from that very violent confrontation in that hotel room.
Well, that's the thing. So, Mollye, a very unfortunate, sad circumstance all the way around. Thank you so much for continuing to follow this.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.